Many have argued that streaming services have gotten a little bit out of control. 2 decades ago, the market hardly even existed. There was live streaming technology going back to the 1990s with companies like Real Networks, if you remember Real Player and all the buffering involved with it, but that was the extent of it. 1 decade ago, streaming was almost synonymous with Netflix, with a few others offering it on a much smaller scale. Today, there are so many platforms to choose from that are so competitive with each other that it is commonly referred to as the streaming wars. Just think about that. What used to be considered as a smaller side offering to most media companies has quickly become the most important part of their business. Streaming has impacted movie theater sales and has been a major threat to almost all television channels. When Disney Plus was launched in late 2019 at nearly half the price of Netflix, that was like Archduke Franz Ferdinand being assassinated, providing that spark to set the war in motion. Disney's CEO at the time, Bob Iger, said, "This is our first serious foray into this space, and we want to reach as many people as possible with it." And then the pandemic starting only months later, keeping everyone at home streaming stuff, took everything to that next level. In the following years, most major media companies launched their own streaming service and invested billions of dollars, often at a loss, to create and obtain content to put on it so they could hopefully obtain a share of the rapidly growing market. More recently, however, the strategies have shifted away from trying to obtain customers and more toward trying to make money from their existing customers. You know, Netflix cracking down on password sharing and adding an ad-supported tier for the first time are examples of that. Clearly, there is a lot that could be discussed here, so in this video, I want to talk about the evolution of streaming by comparing some of the bigger platforms that have shaped the industry. Starting off with Netflix, of course, which I'm sure you already know is the biggest and most impactful streaming platform ever to exist. It was the first one to show potential in the concept in a big way and is still the biggest with over 300 million subscribers. Fortunately, I have already made 2 videos about Netflix before, one that focuses more on their early days of DVD rentals and one that focuses more on streaming. I recommend watching those if you want to hear more details, but in short, Netflix first offered streaming in 2007 with a service called Watch Now. It was originally meant to be an extra complimentary service for the existing subscribers who are getting DVDs through the mail. By 2011, shortly after streaming surpassed DVD revenue, they tried to separate the 2 services into different subscriptions, going so far as to rename the DVD service Quickster, but after a lot of backlash from customers, they abandoned the idea. Though in 2023, over a decade later, they did discontinue the DVD service altogether. Netflix was also revolutionary in that it was the first to invest a lot of money into original programming for the platform. Starting in 2013 with early Netflix originals like House of Cards and Orange is the New Black, and having since been responsible for cultural sensations, I would call them, like Stranger Things and Squid Game. Today, Netflix reportedly spends around $17 billion on content each year, most of which is allocated toward original creations. Hulu is maybe the one that's the most fun to say, and another platform that has been important to the industry, especially in the early days. Now, Hulu was first announced almost right after Netflix started streaming content, but was actually seen as more of a response to YouTube, who had just been acquired by Google a few months earlier. It was started by the companies who owned NBC and Fox, mostly as a place where people could watch TV shows from those networks on demand through the internet. I know the whole thing sounds simple enough today, but people were very skeptical of it, giving it the nickname Clown Co before the name Hulu had ever been announced. Most of that skepticism was based around the fact that operating it was going to be so much more expensive than YouTube. Hulu would have to pay more money to store higher quality videos on servers and would have to pay way more to license content from competing TV channels. They also spent a lot of money to advertise it because most people did not necessarily understand what a streaming platform was at the time. By the way, I can't be the only one who remembers seeing that commercial just over and over. Unlike most of the other popular platforms, Hulu was originally only ad-supported, started, but they introduced a paid version called Hulu Plus in 2010. I believe that was the first of many streaming services to use plus in its name. However, they spelled out the word instead of using the symbol, and oddly enough, got rid of it in 2015 before all the others started using it. Also, unlike most of the others, Hulu has had a mix of owners. For a while, I think it was seen as like the online platform for professionally made content. Without getting too lost in the details, Disney first became involved in 2009 when they bought 27% of it. 10 years later, as Disney Plus was right around the corner, they made multiple deals to take full control of Hulu. And it looks like part of the plan there was to expand it internationally alongside Disney Plus. But since Hulu had almost no brand recognition outside of the US, they used the brand Star instead. Today, Hulu is commonly bundled together with Disney Plus and has 50 million subscribers. Disney Plus, I think, is the logical one to talk about next. In 2017, Disney ended its distribution deal with Netflix, meaning their movies would soon be pulled off Netflix and placed on their own service. Around that same time, they also bought the majority of the technology company BAMTech that was utilized to build ESPN Plus, launched by Disney the following year, as well as Disney Plus. I have to point out that Disney had been steadily building a library of content, particularly through the acquisition of some of the biggest IPs in existence. Most notably, they bought Pixar in 2006, Marvel in 2009, and Star Wars in 2012, all of which have been prominently featured on Disney Plus and have helped them grow to over 100 million subscribers, far exceeding their initial goal of having 60 to 90 million subscribers by the end of 2024. Max was launched by Warner Media in 2020, about 6 months after Disney Plus, originally branded as HBO Max. And HBO itself has a long history of streaming content. HBO Go was started 10 years earlier as an online complement for existing subscribers of the HBO television channel. In 2015, HBO Now was launched as its own subscription service for HBO content, and here, HBO Max started as a replacement for those to include a much wider variety of content, including Warner and DC properties, with the tagline, "Where HBO meets so much more." Right before that launch, Warner Media hired a new CEO named Jason Kilar, who not coincidentally was in charge of Hulu through its launch and the first few years. He remained in charge of Warner Media until it was bought by Discovery, who had recently launched its own streaming service called Discovery Plus. Do you see what I mean here when I say that it is all getting a little out of hand? In 2023, HBO Max was rebranded simply as Max, mostly because HBO has a reputation for more adult programming, and they felt like taking that out of the name would make it appear more family-friendly. Today, these streaming services combine for more than 100 million subscribers. Prime Video is technically the world's second largest streaming service, with over 200 million subscribers, though it must be acknowledged that Prime Video is available to anyone who subscribes to Amazon Prime. See, Prime was started in 2005 as a membership program where customers would get free 2-day shipping for an annual fee, at the time $79. The following year, Amazon started something called Unbox that was more of an iTunes competitor, where people could buy movies and TV shows to be bought and downloaded individually, as opposed to unlimited streaming. 5 years later, it was renamed Amazon Instant Video, where 5,000 of the titles would be included as part of that Prime subscription. That structure was much more similar to Netflix and everything I've been talking about here, so I think we can mark 2011 as Amazon's official entry into the market. It started out as just a little extra incentive to get people to sign up for Prime, but has evolved into so much more. In 2016, they started selling it as its own service for people who are not subscribed to Prime, and offered it for $8.99 a month, $1 cheaper than Netflix was charging at the time. In 2022, Amazon bought MGM for over $8 billion, giving them access to more than 4,000 movies and 17,000 TV episodes, and in 2025, they paid over $1 billion to take control of the James Bond franchise. All of that has turned Amazon into a major media company and has given them more content that can be added to Prime Video. Paramount Plus is yet another major streaming service. Again, I have a different video that goes into more detail, but Paramount is a struggling film and TV company that has been investing heavily in streaming. In 2019, they bought Pluto TV, the free ad-supported service, for $340 million. And then in 2021, it was even bigger when they rebranded CBS All full access into Paramount Plus that would stream a wide variety of Paramount films from the past 100 plus years alongside a bunch of popular TV shows from networks that they own. I think it is interesting that they made a deal to have it included as part of Walmart Plus, which is not a streaming service, but rather Walmart's version of Amazon Prime, where they offer free shipping under a subscription. So it is like they are really trying to match Amazon on every aspect, even the video streaming. Paramount Plus has since grown to a subscriber base of 77 million people, which is far below early expectations, but I would still say impressive, considering it is newer than any of the others that are comparable in size. Some of the smaller services that I want to talk about briefly here would include Tubi, one of my personal favorites, being completely free and supported through ads. It was bought by Fox in 2020 as part of the streaming wars and has since grown its user base to almost 100 million people each month. Peacock is a popular one, launched to include mainly NBC and Universal properties in 2020. Like The Office, for example, was taken off Netflix to be exclusively streamed on there. They also made a 5-year deal with the WWE for exclusive US streaming rights to the WWE Network content, who itself already had over 1 million paying subscribers. Though that deal is set to expire soon, and Netflix has recently made a deal with the WWE to show Monday Night Raw. But that exclusive library of content has helped Peacock grow to around 36 million subscribers. Apple TV Plus was years in the making before it was launched in 2019. They have since spent over $20 billion producing original content, but it looks like that may not have been the best investment, considering they have not captured the market share that they were likely hoping for and have slowed down that spending. Let me know in the comments, what are your thoughts on these streaming wars so far, and what do you see for the future? Will there continue to be more and more services forcing us to pay for a dozen different subscriptions to access all the shows and movies that we like, or will things start to cool off? Maybe you think there's going to be more consolidating or bundling between them, or will people return back to traditional television? What do you think is going to happen? Also, I'm curious, what are your favorite services? Does Netflix deserve to be on top, or maybe you think one of the smaller ones are being overlooked? As a quick disclaimer, I hope you can tell that it was an impossible video to cover everything, so I did my best to stick to the most important parts of the biggest platforms to hopefully provide a sense of how the industry has been evolving. Tell me if you think there's something important that you would like to add to all of this, and any other thoughts you have about streaming services, leave them in the comments. I'd like to hear what you have to say. Thank you for watching.